All right, let's do it live on a frigid but sun-kissed Tuesday edition. Merely Beau, the Great Z, in the creme. You love the creme.
Oh, baby.
The creme and the white. Lovely.
I feel like I had to
appropriate.
I think that's the only thing that's hard with
Creme.
with the creme is to know what to wear. I feel like white's really the only way that I can
think
go.
you got to go
or
white.
I'd have to go with this exact brown.
Yeah, you go that exact, or orange. You could do that. If you had an orange, I think you'd be fine as long as the oranges match. I think white is the right shirt to pair with the creme. I think you can go with a gray pant. With the creme is usually what I prefer. Is that what you did? Yep, that's the best way. I've tried the khaki, and it's a little bit. That ain't gonna work.
I've osmosised a lot of college football Nate from you.
There she is.
Oh, there it is.
Debutante. There she
here.
is.
Yep.
Very nice.
And then I've also osmosed some pairings from you.
Yeah, I like it.
I used to dabble pretty exclusively in dark palettes.
Yeah.
Not that I was emo or anything.
No, I remember.
Or John Cash.
You were
Gary Player.
Gary Player, yeah. Zorro. The Z that stands for Zorro.
Well, how about it? So I got to tell you, I don't know how it was when you drove out here.
Okay, go ahead.
But I experienced something today that I've lived in Cleveland for over, this will be 24 years now.
All right.
A quarter of a century.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
When you think about you've lived here longer than you lived in the Bay Area?
Oh, yeah, way. Yeah,
Yeah.
that happened.
That still hasn't happened
a
to
while
me. Not yet Montana versus Ohio. But
so
it's
is Montana still the place that you lived the longest?
22 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
It's coming.
When did you move here?
07.
Yeah, so not
I got a while. I got a while, yeah.
You got a lot's going to change.
A lot could change. Who
knows?
knows? Who knows?
So I experienced something on the drive here that I have never, ever experienced in my life before.
I have my pen. I'm taking
So
notes.
this morning, wake up and, you get a note from Bryce's school, tardies are forgiven. Just get here safely whenever you can get here.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay. I see like a few inches of snow in my house. I don't know what your house was like.
Yeah, nothing, even less than this. It's a skiff at best for me.
We had like 2 inches.
Yeah, very little.
And I took him to school. Roads were great.
Yeah.
Fine. Come home. I did, however, make the mistake last night, and I do this. It's rare that I do this, but I did it last night. I forgot to plug in the old car.
Oh, mama, and that will bleed in these temps.
So I had limited. I was able to get Bryce there at home. Then I had to get some charging going because then I knew I'm going to need to get to a supercharger before I get in here.
Yeah.
And there's one right off the freeway here at Tiedemann, however you pronounce it, off of 480. So going, everything's good. Hit 77, roads are fine.
Yeah.
Cross over 77. And then kind of like as I get past 176, kind of come around that curve, and then
Parma
there's the long straight, where you got like Ridge Road and all those. It is an ice rink.
Come on.
The freeway.
Really?
Like
literal ice.
Literal ice. All of a sudden, I'm watching, I'm not kidding, 15 cars off the road. I'm seeing cars spin out, hit a thing, come back across, go all the way across. Oh, my God. Like on skates. Yeah, like, they're selling that new car that can, like, duck walk.
Yeah,
I saw a car duck walk unintentionally right across the freeway in front of me. People are going, like, 20 miles an hour. I lost, because I kind of came into it, because the roads were good, and then all of a sudden it was not. And it was solid, and I've never seen this. Now, Gibbe was talking to me about chlorophyll more like borophyll. When it gets under 18 degrees, you can't use salt. You need sodium carbonate or chloride or whatever. And I'm like, whatever, use it.
But they didn't have any there in that area.
And then somehow when you get over the kind of that up and down where Mally's chocolates are, you get the three,
you're
the milk,
approaching
sugar, and cocoa.
71 and all that, yeah.
Then it was back to being like mostly okay. But there was a stretch, and I have never seen this. It was an ice rink on 480 the freeway.
All right, this is the only thing that this is what I think. I'm guessing that during that stretch, while they were this is best guess, while they were pre-treating the roads, during that stretch, maybe they ran out of that mixture. And unbeknownst to them.
Just for that stretch?
Unbeknownst to them. That's the only thing I can think of.
Okay.
Because it doesn't that wouldn't be a municipality. That's 480.
Here's the thing, though, brother.
So that's not like I wouldn't think that would, Gibby, that wouldn't be like on Parma, would it? That would be like on.
It took me
an ODOT.
It took me an hour to get here.
Oh, my gosh.
And I got here to interview Coach at like, I want to say 11:15. So like it's not like
it's like all day, and it was still like this.
This is what I'm saying. I've never. It blew my mind. I texted Gibby. I'm like, this is the most treacherous drive I've ever been a part of. If I had to stop at any point,
forget it.
I wouldn't have been able to. So then I got off. I supercharged so that I have some juice to get. I'm going to go right back to the supercharger and go home. But I expected, like when I got off the freeway at Tiedemann, is it Tiedemann or Tiedemann? Tiedemann. When I got off, it's like Houston, Houston, depending on where you are.
Yeah.
That I expected those, roads and whatever not to be great, and they were not great. But I've never seen a freeway. It was bonkers. Dude. I was watching. It was like a movie. And the car go, and then that one's gone. This guy hits front on this and came back around and went over here and almost hit 2 cars in the right lane because they can't stop. Nobody can control themselves. And then ended up like up the embankment to the right. I've
never seen anything like that where it would be like on a major stretch.
Because they can't do anything on the bridges.
No, it was
on the straightaway on the freeway.
I mean, so this is probably between like State Road and
before
Ridge?
State Road, from like 176 all the way through to basically to Tiedemann.
Well, that would be through State, right? Wouldn't that be
State's in the middle of that?
State's in the middle of that. Yeah.
That whole stretch.
Gosh almighty.
And I don't know about eastbound, but westbound, that's how it was.
They could be putting it down, and the wind's blowing 50 miles an hour. It could be blowing it right off.
That's what I think. I think either that or but during that stretch, they ran out of the mixture.
There were once you got past that, it was like patchy. There was ice, but you could tell some was melting, so you still had your tires something to get into.
Yeah.
I'm talking, dude, like
just ice.
It was an ice skating rink.
Yeah,
wow.
Monica said she got on 71 because she takes that up to like West 65th, and she said, it's been a long time since I've seen it that bad.
I've never seen it
post
like that
rush
on
hour.
a freeway.
She didn't leave till after 9.
Like, it's one thing if you're on like a back road.
Yeah, of course.
And I know luminaries in this building who were coming here today that slid off roads and were fine, but slid off roads. Like,
yeah, I don't know. That someone would know. Someone listening knows what happened or what would possibly have happened in that scenario.
Yeah,
I don't. I've never heard of anything like it.
Last night, in the span of 90 minutes, is when it all happened. And it happened like at 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Like there was a light snow. I was taking the garbage cans out. It was starting to coat on the ground, and I'm like, it's kind of like a rain snow. I'm like, if it's going to get colder.
Yeah.
This underneath is going to be a problem here. This is going to be ice. And then we had 3.5, 4 inches in 45 minutes. I mean, it was a whiteout. I walked away. I was down in our basement doing something. I came up, and I'm like, oh, Winter Wonderland back. I was gone for less than an hour.
Man.
But it was on top of easily 2 inches of ice.
Wild. In Montana, they don't do salt. They just gravel because there's no salt. So
I was in Dallas for the Super Bowl the year when it was Bonkersville.
That was a disaster.
And it was their choice was sand.
Yeah, you see gravel or sand is a lot. We did that in Montana.
Not
too.
very
Put
effective.
Gravel down?
Yeah, they put gravel and sand down.
Not very effective
because there's no salt. So there's no salt on any of the roads in Montana. It's all gravel or sand.
Why no salt? Why?
There isn't any deposits to pull from.
Gotcha.
For that big of a state, so it's all gravel and sand is what they do with them. So like the first time that kind of macabre, but when my mom's funeral, Amy's folks came, and it was like 20 below zero, and they had never driven. I mean, it's snow pack. Think about this. Like you're not driving on the road. You're driving on ice and snow pack with gravel on top of it.
Yep.
Okay. And Amy's poor dad, like it's 11 miles from the funeral to where I grew up. It took him like an hour and some. Like he did not go over like 8 miles an hour. Like just was terrified. And I don't blame him because he had no point of reference on it.
You've never done it.
Never done it. No. And then conversely, when my parents were here the first time, and we treat the roads and they look white, but they're sticky because it's salt. The first time I went to a stop, my mom thought I was going to blow through the stop. She thought it was all ice and snow. She's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "No, we're good. You got grip. We're good."
I remember at that Super Bowl, so I had rented a car. I was down there, and you're renting a car in Dallas. You're not renting a car with snow tires.
No.
Or a car that is expecting this. And the first second I got on the freeway, I went, and fortunately hit nobody.
Nobody got hit? Wow.
And then I was like, okay. I was just driving like very, very slowly everywhere I went.
Read at work with this. He was in the area of Parma, Old Brooklyn, West Cleveland last night. At the time of around 7 to 9, it might as well have been Siberia. Complete whiteout. Nobody going more than 10 miles per hour. Everything else completely fine. So strange.
It was.
I've never
seen
I've never seen anything like what you experienced. There's the G man. There he Look at the stride on him.
Very confident.
Striding out. Yeah.
Young Gabriel.
Let him watch. Wow. I got no point. Thank God you're okay. The turnpike was fine. I zipped right over.
Because it's a turnpike.
It's a turnpike.
It's
no zipping.
It's got to be open.
Yeah, 80. Let's go, baby.
Zipless.
Crazy.
Be safe out there.
Yeah, for sure. This, by the way, what we're going to deal with here, what we dealt with the last couple of days and then today and then what's coming this weekend, like rain, gross, freezing wind, more rain, because it's rain gross this weekend, right?
Sunday's looking like rain, heavy rain in the morning, pockets of rain in the afternoon, 40s.
I'll be here for all the people who are now like, yeah, dome's a pretty good idea after this one. I'll be here for you. I'll be listening. Come here. Bring it in.
Is that what we're looking at for this? It's going to be like rain?
Bring it in. I'll hug you right here.
Hey, dude, I'm going to tell you something that happened. Oh, my God. Monday is 52.
Correct. Buckle up. The roller coaster ride.
Oh, my gosh. Looks like we could have a white Christmas, though. That's nice.
That would be the best.
I'm dreaming of it. A week from Saturday for that playoff game down in Columbus, 32 and snow.
Enjoy the steel benches.
Ooh. So I was going there. You brought up the dome. The athletic director at Ohio State, Ross Bjork, was on, and this ties into the dome conversation we were having. And they're doing everything. The tickets went on sale today, and they're doing everything they can to, like, come on, let's go. Let's bundle up like Ralphie did and go to the games. But the reality is they have a 105,000-seat venue, okay? They have no students. Students are off.
Yep.
Okay? So they're not there. So are they going to drive back to old Columbus Town to sit in the cold at 8 o'clock at night, right? And their concern is that they're going to be invaded by a volunteer army because they're pretty fired up to do it.
This is with you this morning.
I did not have Ross on. He was on the show that preceded me.
The Juice.
The Juice had him on, yeah. And so they were talking with him, and I was listening to the interview, and then I played some of it on my show. And one of the things that became abundantly clear is they're doing everything they can to try to make the best of what is an absurd situation. This is a 100-plus-year-old place that is not built for this. So,
no.
I mean, like, I don't know how many people the last time people up here have been down to a game down there, but, like, they have porta potties inside the stadium as bathrooms.
Oh, I know.
You know this. But, like, if you've never been there, you think it's just like every other NFL stadium. You go and everyone's got bathrooms. No, not the case, right? That place ain't built for it. So what I said is, wouldn't it be nice when there will be one straight up 71 North? And that's real.
That's where you host your playoff
That's where you host your playoff games. Because when you build a football Ferrari, you don't want to drive on a frozen 480.
No.
You want to drive in Modena, Italy.
That's right.
That's where you want to be. So let's do that. And that's part of, so when you talk about, yes, if you have the most talented team, you want to play in conditions that are pristine. That's going to suck Sunday.
By the way, the idea, and it's such a good idea on paper that you get to host a playoff game. There are only certain places in the country that can actually do this year-round.
Yeah.
And certainly at night year-round. I guess these all have to be in prime time. Is that part of the deal?
No, two of them do and you knew it was going to be the two biggest brands from a television, so it's Notre Dame and Ohio State. Like, I don't know South Bend on a Friday night at 8 o'clock. Now, I've not been to a game. I've been to South Bend. I've not been to a game at Notre Dame Stadium.
The wind coming off of,
I know they've thrown a ton of money
Michigan
at it.
There?
You're away. I don't know. I don't know what. I would imagine South Bend would have a similar climate to here.
Yes.
Be my guess, but I don't know.
Like, that's what I wonder if let's say Michigan had made it this year.
Yeah.
And they were in the position to host a home playoff game and it was going to be bad. Would they just move it to Ford Field? Would they do that in Ford Field?
If I were Michigan and I had the team they had last year, I would want to play in Ford Field.
Yeah.
If I have the better team, I want to play where the conditions are good.
Right.
They look pretty damn good in the
Rose
Bowl.
Don't you think that and you tell me if I'm wrong, but don't you think if this Brook Park Dome existed today, that Ohio State would have a better Ohio State crowd in Brook Park than they will have in the shoe?
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
Can't get any higher.
Now our ownership, of course, has ties to. So this matchup
would be incredible.
They like the Vols a lot, so
would have been incredible.
That would be incredible. Yeah. But no, I think it's kind of a no-brainer. Like, they built that football program to play indoors in great conditions to be faster than all the other football programs. That's what they built it for. And they bet, the bet that they made was, we'll be more talented to beat the teams we need to beat in the Big Ten, which 99% of the time they are, with the exception of the Maize and Blue recently.
True.
And so all we got to do is get to that. And then to win a championship, we're going to have to go, we're going to play in pristine conditions. We want to have the fastest team on the planet. And that's the team they built.
Yep.
So here's my question. For this year, why not go down or go across I-70 to Indianapolis?
Because Gene Smith talked about that like 3 years ago, and the fan base went, what? We're not doing that. We're not taking – here's the other thing. There's a financial benefit to having it on campus. So they get the parking and the concessions. The college football playoff, though, gets the gate. So the college football playoff gets the gate.
Because it's a playoff. Yeah.
Yes. So
that's what they do for D2 and D3, right?
Yeah, they get concessions and they get the parking, but they don't get the gate. The gate goes to the CFP. Now, Ohio State will get a cut of the CFP because they're one of the 12 teams in it, but it's split evenly.
Game day going to be live on Friday afternoon at 3:30, and then from Notre Dame.
Yep.
And then Saturday morning from the shoe.
I really don't know what to expect. I've been to freezing cold games there in November. I was at a Michigan game that was in the 20s. Like, I want to say it was like 09-ish, 08, 09, 2010, something like that. I was at an Indiana game in, I want to say like 14 or 15 that was awful. But, like, this is not the comforts of Cleveland Browns Stadium. You're not going into a warm concourse. You're not going undercover. You do not have seat backs.
Don't have seat backs.
The majority of that stadium is a metal bench.
Which is going to be
frozen. You have to stand the whole way.
Or you have the people that bring their little, little.
Yeah, but even
seat
those
you can't bring those in.
Oh,
you have to buy them ahead of time. They're 12 inches wide. You have to buy them ahead of time.
Better hit the gym.
Yeah.
Go on a cleanse. What did you think of the talk that also happened on the program before yours? And I'm paraphrasing, so if I'm oversimplifying it, please tell me I am. But that, they're placing too much emphasis on the game, the big game, and that they need to not do that as much. And
I think what he's trying to say is, what he was trying to do is, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think I know him well enough to translate it a little bit. What he was trying to say is, he's not on the hot seat.
Clearly.
He's not on the hot seat if they lose to Tennessee. And
does that surprise you?
No.
Okay. Because of the money. You've outlined why it's not actually feasible.
Yeah, I think that, and he can't say that, right?
Right.
And so he wants to make it, he wants it to be that
supportive.
We're all aligned behind the program. And the one thing about in college football and college basketball, I do think the one root of what he was talking about, which is true, is that if you don't win the national championship, it's a failure. Well, that can't be the case anymore. You're gonna have to view college football a little bit like we view college basketball. So Gibbe likes Duke. So Duke, Kansas, Kentucky, Carolina,
Arizona.
whoever the bluest of blue bloods are in college basketball, right? The expectation isn't go win the national championship.
It's be a high seed in the tournament.
Yeah, and get a bite at the apple.
Yep.
Get to the Final Four. If you win a national championship, awesome. Those are incredible seasons. But get to Final Fours a lot. Get a lot of bites at the apple. Be elite. That's the job.
Yep.
And with a playoff now in college football, that's the job for Ryan Day at Ohio State, is make the playoff every year, make a run every 10 years, win one every 10, and make a run to the Final Four, semifinal, half the time.
Yep.
That's I think what he was getting at.
I think, and the other thing is, had this been any year but 2024, the big game would have a big say, depending on the circumstance, on whether or not you had the ability to compete for a national championship.
This would have ended
this would have been
the worst loss in the history of the Ohio State-Michigan game if they didn't have the playoff.
Yes. And now might
not
matter.
Something. 120 years, and that would have been the worst.
That wasn't said lightly.
No.
But because it is 2024, it almost is an irrelevant outcome. It makes your path harder, sure. But you still get if you win, you win.
Your ultimate goal can still be achieved.
Yes.
Right? So in that sense, the outcome is irrelevant in the sense that you can still win a national championship.
To me, that's what unfortunately what this has done is it de-emphasizes that type of a situation.
100%, it does.
Whereas
that's why we said coming out of the loss that Harbaugh getting to win that one
was everything.
That's why he's Danny Ocean, man.
That
he did all of it.
He did it all.
And he walked.
Yeah.
And you're never going to have one like that again, where winner goes to the Big Ten championship, winner goes to the national championship, springboard, and then wins the national title. That's as good a Michigan win you're going to have. The one he had.
And that one also had all the if Ohio State wins it
validated
you could
or
at least
invalidated.
make the claim that it invalidated everything from the prior seasons. That one that's as big a game as ever, and then to have this one, which is unfathomable to lose that game. It's rough. But that's the beauty, and I think also kind of the bummer in the national playoff being expanded to this magnitude is that, number one, you're going to get some garbage games, but number two, and the buys are absurd. We've already addressed that ad nauseum. But number three is that it doesn't matter. Like, what was really could have been the worst loss in over a century of a rivalry is if the Buckeyes go on and win the title is irrelevant.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Which, from that standpoint, if you're a Buckeye fan, that's what you hope you do. Now, if you get blown out by Tennessee, I do think I know why they can't, but it does feel like, man, that would raise some questions amongst people that this was a pretty big collapse for a team that was widely considered to be, one of the two, maybe three most talented teams in the league, if we're probably top
for sure.
two.
Yeah. I just got this on social from BD Humble. I'm no ridiculous homer, but since when is 67,000 greater than 102? I feel like this also needs to be said. Some of the loudest venues are not the largest. Michigan Stadium is not particularly loud. It's a hole in the ground. It's a hole in the ground, man. The noise escapes. Ohio Stadium's 105,000. It's not particularly loud in comparison to, for example, Minnesota's stadium, the Detroit Lions stadium. Oftentimes, enclosed can be louder. There's a while that stadium in St. Louis was the loudest venue when the Rams were there on the planet.
The TWA Dome.
And it wasn't 100,000.
At some point, it was the Edward
Jones at one point?
TWA.
Yeah. So, like, size, amount of people there don't necessarily equate noise. What equates noise is, can you trap it? That's why Beaver Stadium in Penn State is is the loudest I've been in, because it's built straight up. And the swamp is like that. It's built straight up.
Seattle. And they arch it. They bring that. It is designed literally to shoot the sound right back down in Isla. How about the pit in New Mexico, home of the Lobos?
That's right.
It's too bad they were never great. They had a while where they were like decent enough.
Yeah,
that was an intimidating venue.
That's a cool venue.
It's a great venue.
Very cool. It's a state I can't wait to explore when we start to scout for OFs.
Oh, baby. Scouting is underway.
It's ready to go, baby, especially on a day like today.
Yeah.
Some injury news. Harrison Butker back at practice for Kansas City. Tackle DJ Humphreys did not practice. Juwan Taylor tackle limited. Everyone else is full in Kansas City. So we hit the practice field at 12:30.
We're on the field right now. No David Njoku. Doesn't sound like it's trending like he's going to play. Bitonio out again today. Miles is back. Cedric Tillman limited on the practice field. Back on there, though, for a second straight day.
Yeah, Njoku, it feels less optimistic, which is unfortunate because obviously he's been, certainly from a volume standpoint, he has been very impactful of late. I think he had, 7 catches last week. He's got 4 touchdowns in the 6 games with Jameis, 7 or more catches in 3 of the last 4. So he has been very, very impactful, and I think it would obviously be challenging to accommodate for what he has done in this offense without him. I am optimistic on Cedric Tillman. Bitonio, I would think so, just because he's been an Ironman, but I think it is unfortunately a little farther from as certain as we would like it to be. I'd say of the 3, Tillman, really good. Bitonio, 50-50, and then Chief, it feels like, is not as positive of a situation right now.
Big news in the football world of the day. Bill Belichick going to be introduced in a half hour at North Carolina.
I can't believe it.
I can't either.
I'm seriously stunned. Now, we've obviously, and we're going to play some clips, right, Gibbe?
We have from, the Bubba Ventrone,
from
Bubba talked about it.
Yeah.
Before we get to that, you read the Seth Wickersham piece?
Bits and pieces.
So I read it.
It's pretty great.
It's great. So the way that I evaluate this situation now, he really wants to coach. This was as good as it's going to get.
How is that possible?
Nobody in the NFL was going to hire him. They identified the Bears as the best job, but also identified, as we said yesterday, that operation probably wasn't going to hire him. Jacksonville, they had second, but that's total wild card in terms of ownership, and it wasn't for sure that they were going to hire him. Him and his cronies, like McDaniel, Patricia, those guys, they do weekly Zoom calls and talk about the league, and there was nobody in the league that was going to hire him. And the
How
crazy
would the Dallas Cowboys not hire him?
Well, that was the thing, but they didn't know about the Jerry thing and some of the writing that's reporting that's done in there. The crazy thing is the only team that interviewed him last year was Atlanta. They interviewed him twice, and according to the Wickersham piece, he was not a top 3 pick by any of the Falcons brass, which is wild. But it's a 72-year-old man. He wants to coach. His kid, by the way, is a defensive coordinator at Washington, so he's coming with him, so that helps because now he can maybe set him up. But I think this was as good as it was going to get.
How about the fact that this kind of floated under the radar, and I read it, and you can tell me if I'm sure you're more dialed than I am, but it felt like from very credible sources that if it were not Belichick, it would have been our tight ends coach, Tommy Rees.
At Carolina?
Yeah.
I did not see that.
That came late yesterday.
Oh, I missed that. That Tommy had interviewed for that as the
Twice.
head job?
Yeah, and that if it was not Belichick, it would have been Tommy Rees.
All right. So that, to me, is like the difference of, I'm going to go buy a car today. There's 2 cars I want to look at. I want to look at the old Hummer 1, like the Schwarzenegger Army issue Hummer 1, and I want to look at an Aston Martin. Well, those aren't like each other at all. Why are you choosing between those two? I don't know. I just like them. Those two things have nothing in common.
So
nothing.
This was
Lombardi's going to be his GM.
Yeah,
what in the hell does Lombardi know about what's happening? It's happening in college football at the moment. That's wild to me. The idea that he wouldn't have just called Saban and say, "Who of your guys can I hire who are with you in your organization, who understand recruiting and have relationships with high school coaches?" Because that's all this is. Lombardi has been in the NFL for 40 years, in and around it.
Oh, I know.
And I know you know. What are we doing? Tommy, quite honestly, if Tommy Rees were hired at North Carolina, I'd go, okay, I get it. Young offensive guy, great mind. He's been at Notre Dame. He was at Alabama with Saban, so he knows what's happening, what the sport is right now. Go ahead, Gibby.
No, and that's
Schefter,
exactly what it was from Schefter. Tommy Rees was considered the favorite to land the Tar Heels head coaching job. Rees interviewed for the North Carolina head coaching job twice and had Nick Saban as an advocate. Matt Fortuna, who covers college football, UNC AD Bubba Cunningham, a Notre Dame grad, has long been a fan of Tommy Rees.
And that would make sense. Tommy's in his early 30s. He had been an assistant at 2 places that are high level.
Yep.
That would make sense.
Unbelievable that none of this was known. Tommy Rees is the tight ends coach of our football team.
That somehow he was
that he did these interviews,
and it wasn't
his name was not mentioned until Schefter. It was Schefter, right, that said the tweet?
Correct.
Yesterday that said Tommy Rees was the favorite to get the job. I don't even know what it's stupefying to me that was never even.
That there was that didn't get floated. You didn't hear his name.
Like it could have been that he would have been announced in the middle of this season.
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
if Belichick doesn't take that job, is Tommy Rees announces? Is he being announced at
today.
2:00 today?
Probably today because they can't waste time. The portal's been open since Monday.
Right.
Yeah.
Free agency is underway, kids.
So it's interesting. I mean, he's a name that a lot of people think is going to be an offense coordinator in the NFL. Does he? Maybe he wants to go.
He'd probably like that salary.
I'm sure he would.
Pretty good chunk.
I find the whole thing very, very interesting.
All right. Bubba Ventrone was available earlier today, and
he was
asked about Belichick and the North Carolina gig.
Have you guys down a minute and a half?
I know my son is going to be wherever Steve Belichick's coaching. So if Steve Belichick's the head coach at North Carolina at some point, my son will be going there.
How old's your son?
He turns 11 next week. It's not far away. It's not far away.
Long endorsement from Steve Belichick.
Well, I feel like, Bill gave me my foundation in football. I learned so much as a player and as a coach. And there's no better place that I would want my son to go to school than to play and learn football under the Belichicks.
College was possible for him? Did you have a sense that he might want to go back there?
For Bill? Probably not, but honestly, after I had listened to his interview with McAfee and how he sees building that, that really he's seeing it like an organization to a degree because of how the college football operation is running right now. And after hearing him talk, I could understand why he's going back or why he's going to college,
What about the NIL component of college now, and how you think he might handle that sort of stuff?
Listen, Coach Belichick he's a freak at what he does. He's ridiculous, and Mike Lombardi will do a really good job too. Those guys work well together, and it'll be fun to watch. It'll be fun to watch.
So he's referring to, and we talked about this earlier in the week about when Bill said, I'm going to have training tables. We're going to train you for the NFL.
Nutrition scheme.
It's 25 years. It's been going on in college football. All of that. They've been staying in their own dorms. They have their own foods. They have their own workout. They have their own facilities. It's 2 decades plus in college football. Everybody does that. That's not new. You know what it sounds like? It sounds like when Herm Edwards went to Arizona State. They said, we're going to be an NFL training ground. So's everybody, Herm. They're all doing it.
They have to.
He has got to be able – this is what he's going to have to do. And Cliff Kingsbury had a great line on this. He said, I'll believe it when I see him on the sidelines. I cannot imagine him – Kingsbury said this. I cannot imagine him in the living room of a 17-year-old who is grilling him on how much he's going to get in NIL and when he's going to play and having to kiss that kid's rear end. And then the next day go to a fundraiser and ask for money from boosters to fill his NIL coffers and kiss babies and shake hands because that's what the job is. And that's going to be his reality.
That's why I find it stupefying.
So there is. I asked a buddy who would know. I said, "How many days Ryan Day have off last year? How many days?
Like off.
Like off." And to his understanding, it was 7.
I would say 10 was the number.
It's 7 days off in the summer. He does one family vacation in the summer. Think about this. He goes to Nantucket. In June, he's going to have to be at North Carolina football camp every week because that's when all of the breaking down of athletes, that's when it happens. That's when scholarship offers are made, is in June and July. You have 1 week at the end of June and early July, right around 4th of July, where you're off. Other than that, it is an up-at-dawn siege every day.
So some of the fun little spoof, Vegas is having some fun with some of the mock bets. Some of the things you can bet on in Vegas. Okay. North Carolina over-under wins for next year 7.
How's he going to take that?
Over-under coach, how many years will Belichick coach at UNC? The over-under is 2.5.
Yeah.
What will happen first with Bill Belichick's girlfriend? The leaders in the clubhouse. Girlfriend enrolls for class at UNC. Girlfriend dates UNC player.
Jeez.
What will happen first? Belichick fired at the end of the 2025 season or Belichick and his girlfriend break up? And then there's also, you can actually gamble on this. Which UNC fraternity will Bill Belichick join? And it lists all the friends.
I don't think he'll be a spectacular failure. Like
No.
I'm sure they'll win.
No,
some.
but the amount of
Mac
time
Brown
spent.
won. Yeah, I mean he'll go. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes 8-5, goes 9-4, 9 whatever. Those 9-3. I'm sure he could do that. Mac Brown's got a decent program. They get a decent team, and they've recruited some NFL guys. They had May and Sam. What's his name? The other guy who's quarterback of the Sam Howell
In Seattle, yep.
Yeah, he was in Washington first.
yeah.
Yeah, and then they had Drake. So they had some quarterback guys. So it's fine, but how do you define success? For him, it's go win the Super Bowl. They are not winning a national championship. I saw some of the NFL talking heads this morning on ESPN talking about how the SEC is like, oh no, Belichick. Are you kidding me? Mike Lombardi, who's the head coach at Valdosta Lowndes High School? You better know him.
Yep.
Who's the head coach at DeSoto in Texas? Who's coaching that team? Better know him.
I don't know him. College football Nate does not know him.
But you're not also the general manager of a major college football program that's what Lombardi's going to have to know.
And he's got to go against Andrew Luck, who's the general manager at Stanford.
Jeez. What a scene.
Did you see, though, the Twitter handle, that's like the General Andrew Luck or whatever.
Yeah.
It's so
he wrote
great.
his return to
His return to the battlefield
to the
or
battlefield.
home?
Yeah,
Or the battlefield or home?
Yes, I think he's
back in the battle?
Yeah, it's
Nice.
great.
That is great. That was a great Twitter handle.
Oh, man.
Those are your hot topics today, presented by University Hospitals, official healthcare partner of your Cleveland Browns. Our ownership with some comments to Jeremy Fowler. We'll have that next. Jim Schwartz from the podium as well. It is a matchup day, and is this happen? Do we feel pretty confident that
I think it's pretty confident
that Jack Conklin's going to be in studio with us? So
I
that'll
think
be
so.
fun. Look forward to that.
Intern Colin has a lot riding on it today, the
All
PR
right, all
intern.
right. We got
Colin's
a
been
mailbag,
pretty
too. Got a
solid.
mailbag edition of the program as well. We're off and running. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Hey, want to get your kid involved with the Dog Pound? Join Junior Browns Backers, presented by University Hospitals, Rainbows, Babies, and Children's, and in association with Cardinal Credit Union, the official kid club for kids age 4 to 12. Join Junior Browns Backers and purchase our premium membership by December 31st. To score an invite to our premium members-only event, visit juniorbrownsbackers.com to join now. The biggest of L luminaries, our owner, Jimmy Haslam, talking to ESPN's Jeremy Fowler down at the league meetings in Dallas. Some quotes from Mr. Haslam here. We went from 11-6 and making the playoffs to 3-10, so it's a little bit perplexing. He was then asked whether he has the right players in place with Stefanski and Barry. I do, we do, we're very supportive, were the comments on that. He elaborated, we need to get through the season and we'll look at everything. While Haslam has said a lot of needs as a team and we'll need to prioritize them, he acknowledged the team has enough talent to avoid a full-scale rebuild. We're all disappointed, Mr. Haslam said. We've got a lot of work to do. We'll go back and go to work. I've learned not to get too emotional during the season. We'll sit down after the season, go through everything for next year. There you go.
Doesn't get any higher on the food chain, folks. There is no more direct source.
It's a huge L.
It doesn't get any bigger. No. It would be a skyscraper.
We're
just out there on land. Yeah, I think disappointed. I think that, one of the things you do realize is that as you go through this many, many years, is getting upset is not going to make it any better, but you have to be smart and measured and figure out, what it is that you want your solution to be.
This will be one of the more it's going to be one of the more fascinating off seasons because there are myriad paths to be taken. And you have, for the first time in a while, a first-round pick. There's a lot of different ways you could even go with that.
Yes.
So there's a free agency component. There is some restructuring of deals component. There's a who will be back component.
Yep.
There's the draft component.
Yep.
So every single one of those benchmarks things that we've been paying attention to since you and I have been doing the show, all of them will have an even added value and importance based on the fact that from a roster standpoint, we are in a little bit of a pickle. And there's some big, tough decisions that are going to have to be made in the next 6 months, 3 months, to see what this thing looks like next year.
Yeah, and that is really where it all, when they do sit down, as he said, we're going to sit down, we'll go back to work and go through everything for next year. Whatever it is that comes out of those meetings, conferences, discussions, all of it, that is going to set the path for the 2025 and beyond Cleveland Browns, because it always is more than just a one-year plan. But that will be, I think, for Browns fans, that is when we get insight into that will provide, I think, a lot of information and also excitement for what that is at that time. Because right now you gotta play this out. What do they call it? Play out the string?
Yeah, we got to play it. Yeah, we got to.
Is that the expression?
Yeah, play out the string. Yeah.
I don't even get it.
I don't know what that's in reference to.
A yo-yo?
Vaughn had a great line in the Bad Monkey episode I watched last night where he goes, it's 1,000 miles an hour. It's so many, but he goes, he's dirtier than a sock on the freeway. And the guy goes, that's not an expression. He goes, none of them are an expression until somebody says it.
That's right.
It's a great line.
Okay.
It's
how
good.
fun is it? Aren't you so glad
so
that
fun.
I made you watch it?
I'm so glad. It's awesome. I just finally have access to Apple. So that's what allowed me to watch it.
So that for you, so then you've got, all right, you're on Apple now?
I got that. I got Penguin. I got
and Masters of the Air.
Masters of the Air. I got a lot.
And you got to go from that one to one of the two.
Yeah, that's how it'll go. That'll be the order.
Because you need to go. Then you got to get serious again.
Yeah, I'll lock in on something a little bit more heavy. But this is fun. And by the way, there's a lot of murder in this, so it's not like it's all light. But it's so good.
How about
how
diabolical is the guy's girlfriend?
Terrifyingly so.
Yes.
Yeah, terrifying.
All right, where are you at? How many episodes do you have left?
4, I think. So don't say anything because I still got quite a bit. A lot of fun left. All right, we doing Schwartzy next? All right, Jim Schwartz coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Fill your game day cooler with the refreshing taste of Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea, smooth, real brewed tea, 5% kick of alcohol. Look for the bright yellow cans. Twisted Tea, keep it twisted. We now head to the podium presented by Vivid Seats. Purchase your official fan experience package today for the ultimate game day. Here's defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz.
They're incredible.
You're down 10.5.
Is it as simple as they have Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, or what is it that, about what they do on third down that makes them so successful?
I mean, it starts with the quarterback because he's a guy that if you play zone, he can find spots in the zone. He's quick release and very accurate thrower. And if you play man, he can extend plays and guys can uncover. So it puts stress on you, in a couple different ways. And then you continue to Kelce, who's a big target, but he has good athletic ability, and he's just really, really instinctive when it comes to finding spots in zones. I mean, there's a lot of plays that the route was drawn up a little bit different, but he'll see a spot in zone and he'll sit down in that spot. Like the call actually sort of took care of the pass, but it didn't account for Kelce just, seeing what the quarterback saw and sitting down in zone. So it just puts a lot of pressure along the way. I mean, we're going to have to rely a lot on our pass rush to make sure the plays can't get extended and, work in combinations of zone, man, and pressures. But that's a huge matchup in this game, is the ability to win on third down, and they've done a good job all season.
Mitchell set to kind of take over for Greg, who's out. What have you seen in his skill set? What do you like about his skill set?
Yeah, Cam's been a good player for us. I think the biggest thing, this year he's had about 3 key missed tackles for us that have extended drives or allowed touchdowns or stuff like that, and needs to put those in his rearview mirror. Because he is a good tackle. He's a physical player. He just hasn't shown it all the time this year. But he's been very reliable in coverage, so we look forward to, he's played in spots at different times this year, whether it's just been by personnel package or it's been by, a guy needing a series or a guy having an injury and stuff like that. So he's got big shoes to fill, and, we need him to step up and fill those roles for us.
To need to pressure Mahomes. When you look at your pass rush, are you getting enough outside of Miles? I just think of that one play last week. He was blocked by 3 different guys, and Russ still has time to get pick up the third down.
Yeah, I'd say just in general, over the last, maybe 4 or 5 games, we haven't done a good enough job of rushing the passer and creating pressure. I mean, Miles still sees a lot of the tricked up schemes that he's always seen, but when teams take the approach of taking one player out, it just puts more of a spotlight on the other guys to go win those one-on-ones. And I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of about a month ago that we were, I think, number 2 in the NFL in third down. And our percentage wasn't very far off of last year when we were 1. And then really in about the last month, that's significantly dropped. And, I think we can be better in all aspects. We've given up a couple plays because of miscommunication in the back end or busted coverage in the back end. But for us, it always starts with our pass rush. That's the way we're built. And, I think, depending on how it goes, maybe the ability to get a Michael Hall back can have some effect in there. But we have to do a better job in a lot of those other areas, to buy a little bit of time. Sometimes you can negate the pass rush by throwing quick. We have to do a better job in coverage. Other times you do a good job in coverage, and we need to be able to up our game. And just in general, over the last month, our third down defense has been very disappointing, and we need to get back on track over this last month of the season.
Maybe still thinking about using Mike a little bit outside if he can play this week?
Yeah, yet to be seen. Don't want to show our cards on any of that stuff. But he has the ability to be able to play inside and outside. We'll just, see where the game plan takes us.
For him over these last handful of weeks, just considering all the time he's already had to miss?
Just be healthy, and I think that goes a long way into it. We'd like to get him back on the field, but we'd like to get the healthy version of him back on the field. So we just have to be careful that that he can go do the things that we're asking him to do, and if that's the case, then we'll be on a good track.
Weeks, how have you seen Isaiah McGuire kind of grow, especially with this role where he's getting more opportunities on that edge?
Yeah, his role increased when we traded Za'Darius. He's still a young player, and there's still improvements that he's making. But he's done a good job, particularly in the run game of creating some plays. Like he had the forced fumble last week against the Raiders. He had the forced fumble. Zay's got good size. He's got really good instincts. He's still a developing player. We look forward to him making plays for us going forward.
You mentioned Mahomes beating man and beating zone.
There's not much left for you to do after that.
I guess what makes him one of the all-time greats when you watch him on film?
I think it starts with his arm talent and his ability to throw from so many different arm angles, which you see a decent amount of time now in the NFL, but, he was sort of at the forefront of that. I got to see Matt Stafford do a little bit of that in Detroit, and at the time people were like, boy, you're letting him get away with bad mechanics, like that sidearm throw across his body and he's not looking at the guy he's throwing to. That's, but Mahomes really made it his own. The ability to threaten all parts of the field. He's got some spider sense when it comes to escapability. Can make plays with his legs. He's not a Lamar Jackson with his legs, but he's very efficient when he uses his legs, and just has a really good awareness of when plays break down, his ability to create. There's a lot of guys that in the history of the NFL that if you took it away the way it was drawn up, they struggled to make plays off schedule. There were another batch of guys that couldn't really complete it the way it was drawn up, but they could make plays off schedule. He sort of combines both of those with, big time arm. He can move left, he can move right. There's been quarterbacks that if you made them move to the left, they were ineffective. It's not that. Plus, he's got a good scheme around him, and he's had playmakers around him. Worthy has really stepped up for them and become a guy that gets the ball. They got D-Hop, who's a veteran player, experienced player. Watson, those guys, Juju, big guys that are physical, good running backs. They just do a good job with their scheme, and he has playmakers in there also. It's not just a one-man show, but, when it's all said and done, that connection between Kelsey and Mahomes is, when it's all said and done and you write the story of whatever, Peyton Manning and Marvin Harrison, or who a lot of the guys have, like that guy that's Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, those kind of things. I think this will be one of the the tandems in the NFL that sort of go down in history, but hopefully not Sunday. We gotta do a good job on Kelsey. We got to do good job staying after the quarterback, and we got to be able to plaster coverage across the whole back end.
In your time in the NFL, is there anyone better with the ball in his hands with a minute to go to win a game?
I don't know. Peyton Manning was a pretty tough customer that way too. But I think the thing that Mahomes has the ability, and I think if you look at a lot of those comebacks, some of them are spurred by a great scramble. Some of them are spurred by, just making an off-schedule play. Some of them are spurred by just ripping the ball down the field and taking what the defense gives him. So I just think, I don't know. I'm old enough to have, had to see Joe Montana do that stuff, and all those different guys. I mean, I'm sure all of Cleveland, would beg to differ when it came to John Elway, with a late drive and things like that. Let's just put it this way: he's right up there with those guys, Tony. I think that probably gives him the respect without disrespecting other people.
Bill Belichick taking over at North Carolina.
Just knowing this about Bill will be successful in anything he does. I mean, if he was going to coach Pop Warner, it would be an efficient operation. If it was going to be high school, it was, he's going to have a unique style. He's going to be extremely organized, and I'm excited for him. I'm excited for University of North Carolina. It'll be fun to sit back and watch that.
All right, there you go. Our defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz, at the podium from earlier today. You're listening to WKNR 850 ESPN Cleveland, a good Karma Brands station. Time for a little bit more on the matchup, our defense versus this Chiefs offense. And for more, we turn to Dr. Z.
Gracias. Listen, this is a team with a lot of Pro Bowlers on it all along this offense, and they are very good. Now, have they been prolific? No, in fact, the least prolific, really, of the Patrick Mahomes era, although since they've gotten DeAndre Hopkins, they're scoring, near the top of the league. Mahomes on the season, 68% completion. That's a career high. He's got all the fourth quarter comebacks, the game-winning drives, all that, but he's averaging 245 yards per game. That's a career low for him, but he is, as we know, two-time MVP, three-time All-Pro, three-time Super Bowl champ, three-time Super Bowl MVP. They've got Travis Kelce, who's got 7,000-yard seasons and at least 862 yards in 10 straight seasons. He leads the team with 80 catches, 682 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he is averaging a career low 8.5 yards per catch. That is nearly 4 yards below his career average. They're getting very good play out of Noah Gray, who has a career-high 35 catches, 399 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He's tied for the team high there. They've got a good offensive line, especially in the middle, where they got Joe Tooney, Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith. The tackles have struggled, Wanye Morris and Jawan Taylor, but they can run it downhill. Pacheco is back. He is healthy. It's just his third game back since he was out after week 2. Kareem Hunt leads the team in total yards, 756, and rushing yards with 608. He also has 5 rushing touchdowns to lead the team. They've got Samaje Perine, who can catch the ball out of the backfield, so they use kind of all 3 running backs there. And then at receiver, they've got Hopkins, the veteran, who's got 30 catches, 357 yards, and 4 touchdowns with the Chiefs in 7 games. Xavier Worthy leads the team with 6 total touchdowns, 4 receiving, 2 rushing, and he can fly, the rookie out of Texas. They also had Juju Smith-Schuster, who went to a Pro Bowl back in 2018. He's got 14 catches, 202 yards, and a touchdown of his own. So they are efficient. They are effective. They grind you down. They run the ball. They have a punishing running game. They are great on third downs. What's crazy about them is they really possess the football. They're almost 32 minutes, number 4 in the league. They have 22 first downs a game, number 5 in the league. Bless you. I don't know if I'm blessing. Am I blessing you or coughing?
I'm all right.
I don't know to bless you anyway. They are the number 1 third down team, and they are the number 3 fourth down team. And so when you think about this, they're 93 for 179 on third down, and then they converted another 9 of 11 on fourth down. So really, if you take the 179, third down situations that they have faced, they have actually converted 102 of them out of 179. That's wild, folks. That's 57%. They're so good, but then they struggle when they get in the red zone. 51% touchdowns in the red zone, 25th in the league. The goal line, 74%, 14th in the league. Browns are going to have to get pressure on him. Mahomes, though, after a slow start to the season, he had 8 touchdowns, 9 picks in his first 7 games. He had a pick in every single game. The last 6, 12 touchdowns, 2 picks, 5 games without an interception. However, those last 6, the 5 wins in that stretch, all one-score wins. In fact, they're 10-0 in one-score games. We've talked about it ad nauseum. They're just very effective in those kind of very, very clutch situations.
That's the word.
And they don't turn the football over a ton. They certainly not of late anyway.
Yeah.
Not of late. They certainly have not.
All right, there you go. Still time for your mailbag. Jack Conklin going to be here at some point as well, so you have that to look forward to, which is nice. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily. We're presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns, on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Browns fans, boost your game day with the Browns Bingo Day presented by Ballybet. Sunday, December 15th, Ballybet giving away over $10,000 in prizes. Play Browns Bingo on the Browns app for free. Presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. And now we head back to the podium. Presented by Vivid Seats. Purchase your official fan experience package day for the ultimate game day. Here is offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey.
David's not able to go for you.
6 minutes, you're down.
How do you adjust, especially when he's been getting so many targets recently?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Dave's a big part of what we do, but I think we got a lot of faith in that room. And guys step up, and that's part of this league and part of what you have to go throughout the course of the league. If somebody, there's a problem with somebody and they can't go, then somebody has to step up, and obviously, it's a by committee approach when it's somebody like Dave who does so many different things, and that's okay. And we've got guys who can fill those roles and do different things and be able to block and get out and run routes and whatnot. So, we'll kind of see as the week goes here and continue to plan. But I think that's part of the nature of the league is just guys need to step up and be ready to go.
Coach, try coaching up Jameis with the picks versus not taking the ball out of his hands in those situations.
Yeah, and the thing I respect about Jameis is that, you know who he is, and you know that he's going to go out and, hey, if something bad happens, he's not going to go in a shell, which is what you want from your quarterback. You want your quarterback to still be able to go out and have the confidence to keep firing and keep playing and play confident. And I think you've seen that from him. That being said, obviously, our main objective is to play smart, not conservative in the quarterback room and protect the football. And so we're going to constantly coach that and preach it and make sure we're doing the right things in that regard to continue to improve there because we need to. And I think Jameis knows that, and us as an offense, we know that because it takes everybody. It's not just it's not just Jameis. It's not just one thing. There's an execution piece with all 11 involved in those scenarios.
I know they're not high in the league in sacks, but pressure-wise, is this a defense is this going to be one of the more aggressive defenses you can face in terms of pressure and variety of pressure? Yeah,
I mean, obviously they do a great job, creating pressures, whether it's through blitzing or through getting elite players matched up one-on-one. And obviously they've got some really good players on the other side. Obviously, Chris Jones is an elite player on the inside who moves around, and they do a good job trying to create matchups for him. So, those are all things that make it tough, and you got to be on top of it in terms of picking things up and protecting and quarterback having a good time clock in his head, and being decisive with it, and guys going and getting open, because those pressure packages, they give you different looks, and I'm sure they'll have unscouted things that they haven't shown, and you got to have base rules that will hold up and be able to protect those things because they are aggressive and they do a good job with it.
I know there's reasons why you've thrown it as much as you have as a team this year, but a couple of the linemen are saying, hey, when you throw as much as we have, it's hard to get better in the run game, when you're only running it whatever percentage of the time. Do you think that's been a factor in why the run game hasn't been as successful just because you haven't done it as much?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think obviously there's times where I think there's multiple, it's again, it takes all 11 guys and it takes the execution piece of it. I thought this past game, guys got in a good rhythm and we were able to create some holes and do some really good things in the run game. So, I think there's a balance there that you got to be able to strike and still be efficient running the ball while being able to throw it. And so, I think there's always going to be that balance and tying together with some of the run game with the play action game and keeper game and all that stuff. But, I do think that, you work on it and you stress it and you've got to be able to execute at a high level each game because each game does take on a life of its own and whether it is running the ball or throwing it. So, You always want to let those guys get in a rhythm and come off the ball, and the more we could do that coming down the stretch here, I think the better off we'll be, because we do have a good group up front, who could do some really good things in the run game. Just continue to give it opportunities and continue to try to stay as balanced as possible.
You go into a game, do you sort of anticipate trying to be as balanced as possible with the run and the pass, or is it more like you would say at this point, passing the ball is more your strength, so you'd probably cater a little bit more towards that?
I think you definitely go into it thinking, I always go into it saying I want to be balanced. I don't go into games saying, I want to throw it 60 times. I always want to be able to attack in multiple different ways, and I think that's when you're at your best. And even in games where you are throwing it more, you can't throw it every down. You still got to run the ball. You still got to do those things. And look, I'm as proponent as anybody as being able to run the football, and I want to be able to do that as much as possible. So I don't want to go into a game and just say, hey, we're going to throw it every time or anything like that. I want to go into each game saying, look, we're gonna attack with balance, and when we have to pivot, and if we're going to run the ball a little bit more, then we're going to run the ball a little bit more, like this past game. If we're going to throw the ball a little bit more, then we're going to throw the ball a little bit more, based off of what we're getting. But I always want to try to stay as balanced as possible to one, help those guys up out front, because they do a good job. They work their tails off. They've done a great job in protection. In a lot of ways, you want to give them those opportunities to come off the football, and I want to be able to give that to those guys. So I want to stay balanced as possible, and when we have to pivot, then you got to pivot and adjust as the game goes.
All right, there you go. Ken Dorsey at the podium from earlier today, presented by Vivid Seats. Time for the matchup, our offense versus that Chiefs defense. For more on that, we turn to Dr. Z.
All right, this is Steve Spagnuolo, and so what that means is he's going to bring the heat. They blitz 30% of the time, sixth at most in the NFL. They run cover zero, which is just an all-out blitz, 8.4% of their defensive snaps. That is second most in the NFL. This is going to be, they're either going to be bringing the heat, and they're going to play shell behind it, middle of field open, second most in the NFL, 60%. The coverage they play the most is cover four. So and they press those on the outside. They'll press that and they'll carry those cover four vertically. So they've got good corners. Trent McDuffie was a first-team All-Pro on one side. The other side is a little more dicey, and that's where I think the Browns are going to have to attack, whether it be Joshua Williams or a Najee Johnson. That's where I think you're going to have to try to attack this team through the air. But Trent McDuffie is very, very good. Their first-rounder in 2022. They just signed Steven Nelson this week, signed to the practice squad on December 9th, the veteran, former third-round pick of the Chiefs back in 2015. Probably the most veteran corner that they've got on their roster. They've suffered some injuries there. Up front, it's all about Chris Jones. He's got 59 pressures, the most by any defensive tackle in the league, the five-time Pro Bowler. Also, George Karlaftis, their first-rounder in 2022, their other first-rounder in 2022. He's got 5 sacks and a team-high 19 quarterback hits. Good linebackers. Nick Bolton already on the season, 89 tackles, a team-high 10 tackles for a loss. Drew Tranquil next to him. He's got 73 tackles, so they've got a lot of talent there. They like to play 3 safeties, Justin Reed, as well as Brian Cook. They play some Jaden Hicks as well, and then their nickel, Chamari Connor, has got a team-high 2 interceptions, a fumble return for a touchdown as well. He's having a career year for them. He was a 4th-rounder for them last year. So they'll rotate a lot of guys up front in the middle, but it's Karlaftis and Jones play the majority of the snaps. And they'll get after you. They will blitz on the season, though. They don't have a ton of sacks, just 25th in the NFL, 27 sacks, but they're number 7 scoring defense, number 6 total defense. They have been an excellent 4th down defense, and that'll be a big battle. The Browns have 9 4th down conversions over the last 5 games, which is the most that's happened in the league in like 40 years. In a 5-game stretch, to have 9 4th down conversions. They're good in the red zone, good in goal to go, and they just win. They're negative in the turnover differential, which is wild. They've had a very strange thing, and you've got to be very protective of the football. But they've forced 15 fumbles this year. They've only recovered 4. That is an anomaly that at some point the ball is going to start to bounce their way, and then I would say probably look out. But big matchup in the middle for Bitonio. You really want to have Bitonio. If not, it'll be Michael Dunn over there. Posick and Teller, when you deal with Chris Jones, will be moving all around. And then Karlaftis against Conklin and Ifedi. That'll be a big battle to watch as well. So that's kind of who this team is. They're just solid. They try to keep everything in front, a lot of bend but don't break, but they will bring the house. They will get after you. They play a lot of dime, which is 3 safety. About a quarter of the time they play dime, which is top 5 in the NFL, or 6 defensive backs, so 3 safeties and the nickel as well. That's who they are. That Steve Spagnuolo, aggressive at times. They'll bring pressure. They'll show pressure. They are a very, very aggressive defense with talent at all 3 levels, and that's one of the reasons why they are able to win. And we talked about when you're top 6 or top 7 in scoring and total defense, you're a good defense.
They're 12-1, buddy.
And they are 12-1.
They're 12-1. That's where they're at.
By the way, fun fact.
Go ahead.
1996-97.
All right.
Yours truly, video intern for football. My buddy was the head video person. You needed someone to film spring ball and then do cut-ups.
Yeah.
I did cut-ups for one Steve Spagnuolo. He was the defensive back coach at Bowling Green, 96.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Who was the head coach then that had
Gary Blackney.
Okay. Whatever happened to Gary?
After BG, it was basically over.
Was he fired at BG or did he?
Yeah.
And then Urban came in after?
It ran its course. He was successful. He had a good run. I think he came from Maryland. He might have even gone back to Maryland.
I think it was Maryland. I do remember this.
Yeah, but Steve Spagnuolo was a DB coach. And
That's something.
I remember doing cut-ups.
Yeah. I remember Laurinaitis telling me that from a defensive playbook perspective, it was stupefying.
Yeah, he was in
the
St.
amount
Louis.
of stuff
Wasn't
that
he the D
was.
coordinator?
Yeah, and he said the defensive playbook was just stupendous amount of information and calls, and very complicated was part of it. All right, there you go. We're doing the Fantasy Minute coming up next.
Yeah, sure, we'll go with it.
All right, we'll hit you with the Fantasy Minute. It's playoff time on the fantasy side of things.
Yeah.
Away we go. So you have that coming up, which is nice. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Hey, Dog Pound, dig into Wendy's new Browns Biggie Bundle all season long. Score a junior bacon cheeseburger, a 4-piece snug, junior fry, small soft drink, and a small Frosty. For just $7, here we go, brownies. Grab one from any participating Wendy's for a limited time. Time for your Fantasy Minute, presented by Scaleco Capital, proud capital investment partner of your Cleveland Browns. It is fantasy playoff time.
Here we go. And often at times when you get to this point, it's a lot about you got to dance with what brung you. Yes, you play matchups, but you got to go with the guys that have gotten you here and the guys that are hot. Trends matter so much in the NFL. The quarterback position, you know exactly who you want to be playing, right? Obviously, it's the Josh Allen, Burrow, Lamar, Jaden Daniels. I think when you talk about guys that got you here, Darnold, Goff, Hurts, guys that I do like this week. I like Kyler Murray. I like Tua. I do like C.J. Stroud this week. I think C.J. Stroud's going to have a better game than he has recently. And then weather dependent, of course, I like our guy Jameis Winston. Stafford against the Niners tonight, I don't mind him at all either. Running back, same thing. Now, injuries always can change these type of things, but I'll tell you saw it last week. If Kenneth Walker's out, Zach Charbonnet is an absolute must-start for your fantasy teams this week. The must-starts, Barkley, Bijan, Derrick Henry, Mixon, Achane, Chase Brown, Jacobs, Charbonnet, Kyron Williams, Kamara, Chuba Hubbard, Gibbs. Those guys are absolute locks. Rashad White, I think, with Tampa is a good play, especially if Bucky Irving is, in fact, out there. But those are the guys that you want to get in your lineups. A little bit farther down the line, Ramondre Stevenson, great start against Arizona. And then I think, again, if you've got a situation where there is no Breece Hall, Braylon Allen is somebody that you have to look at for your team at the running back position this week. Wide receivers, it's your studs. Roll with them. And who are the guys that are red hot? Our own Jerry Jeudy. You keep playing him, even though it's a difficult matchup against Kansas City. You keep playing Jackson Smith and Jigba. Brian Thomas is starting to play well and he has a pretty good matchup with the Jets. Now, the one thing I'd be concerned about in that game is he being followed by Sauce Gardner? That would change the calculus there. Jacoby Myers against Atlanta. Love him. He's been playing fantastic. So has Adam Thielen. And Adam Thielen at this point I feel like is almost in must-start territory for you at the wide receiver position. Tight ends, again, I think there are 5 guys that are every week starts: Kittle, McBride, Bowers, Jonnu Smith, and Kelsey. After that, Mark Andrews has been playing well of late. Cade Otton has been playing well of late. Hawkinson is playing better. Keep an eye on Dalton Kincaid. If Dalton Kincaid's back, Dalton Kincaid, tough matchup, but he is somebody I think to look at as a potential player for you as well here down the stretch. Zach Ertz against New Orleans I like. Andrews, I said, has been playing well. And then Hunter Henry's kind of a wild card. It's either feast or famine, but he's been pretty solid the last few weeks, and I like him against Arizona. And then defense win championships, they say. Ravens against the Giants, Commanders against New Orleans are both very, very good starts for you this week. Vikings against Chicago, Cardinals against New England, Denver against Indy as well. And then I also think if you're wanting to look ahead one week, and it makes sense if you think your team is going to be around in the next week, there are some good matchups there as well as you look at, for example, in Week 16, one of the teams that I really like, Green Bay Packers against New Orleans in Green Bay without Derek Carr. That's a look ahead. If you feel pretty good about that, you got a spot on your bench that you can make a move, grab the Packers for that next round.
Yeah, years ago when you and I first started doing the show, at this point you said don't overthink it, play your hits was kind of the idea this time of year. And that's I've always when I've won fantasy stuff or when I come up a little short, you can always sleep well at night going, look, these are my guys.
Yep.
Don't get too cutesy with it is usually a pretty good piece of advice this time of year. All right, we'll hit the mailbag coming up next. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily. We're brought to you by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of Cleveland Browns on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Serious lawyers, serious injuries. Call 1-800-ELK-OHIO for a free case review. Elk & Elk is a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. Time for the mailbag. It's presented by the Cross Country Mortgage Company, the official mortgage partner of your Cleveland Browns. When it comes to financing, they're always going to get you home. Visit ccm.com today. Equal housing opportunity, NMLS 3029. Hello, Gibbe. By the way, you watched the Belichick presser.
Looks like a baby reveal currently.
It's all that.
Looks like he's
Carolina
having a boy.
Blue. I know you hate them, but that color's
do.
pretty undefeated.
It's great.
It looks good on everything. It just does. Belichick was in a
you do whatever you do.
he was in a Carolina blue shirt and tie, and as a fan of that color, he should have just chosen one or the other. Then it pops. If you wear them both, it kind of looks like an OR scrub.
Yeah,
you should have wore the white shirt with the Carolina tie. That should have been the play. That's the veteran move. Roy Williams' sport coats, by the way, when he was the coach at North Carolina, were pristine.
Oh yeah,
pristine.
The heaters, perfect.
Yeah. Everything was painting the corners 160.
It was okay.
I have no. This doesn't. I'm actually torn. Like I want to root for Federico. I love Freddie. But
Can you imagine like him and Lombardi and
North
Belichick
Carolina.
cruising down to like the quad?
There's just so much
like
about
it's so
this.
crazy.
What does it? I mean, he goes out of his way. My first hire is going to be Freddie Kitchens.
Okay.
All
right. Freddie's a good dude.
Great dude.
Lots of laughs. Likes a bottle of wine.
Not afraid.
Yeah. No. I just think I don't know. Maybe I'll be way wrong. I don't believe I will be, but I didn't think he'd take it either.
No, neither way.
But when you read the Wickersham piece, then you understand that there was no place in the NFL that was going to hire him and all his cronies. There just wasn't. And I wouldn't be surprised if Josh McDaniels is the offensive coordinator. Wouldn't be surprised if Patricia's the defensive coordinator. But if they better hire some people who know how to recruit. They better do that right away.
So strange. I'd like a reality show on it.
Do you know how much?
I think this first season should be the reality show.
Oh, my God. Do you know how many babies you have to kiss and handshakes?
Oh, glad handing?
The glad hand. It's all fundraising. That's all Ryan Day does is fundraise in the whole season, year round.
Yeah.
It's one fundraise after another to fund NIL collectives.
Would you like some mailbag questions?
Go right ahead, man.
You can tweet them
curious.
to us.
I wonder where oh, this is so great. Let me just see what Belichick. I'm just curious, like where North Carolina was this year in recruiting. Because by the way, it's done. So North Carolina, they're not obviously near the top in the North Carolina, but 24/7 Sports recruiting rankings was 17th out of 17 in the ACC this year. Now some of that's probably because Mac was getting fired.
Yeah,
but they only have 7 commitments. So there will be no reinforcements coming this year at Carolina to make them better than they were this year. Like they'll be able to get guys in the portal if they can outspend and do those type of things. All right, let me see where they were.
Did you agree?
Let me see where they were last year.
What does he want? He wants you. No.
You're not back.
No.
Beat Texas.
Not back.
Get out of here, Clemson. Last year, North Carolina was 4th in the ACC, which was good. I mean, would have been well down the list nationally. But they were 4th in the ACC in recruiting behind Miami, Clemson, and Florida State. Here's the other thing, though. Like, Miami's collective is organized and lucrative and ready.
It's the U.
Yeah. I mean, they're ready to go. North Carolina is 26th in the country. They recruited last year at the same rate as Texas Tech and Purdue.
That's
good
crazy.
luck.
It's got to change, though. Wouldn't you have to agree that there's some...
I don't know.
Wouldn't you say that there's some currency in playing for Bill Belichick?
I saw this morning from Mike DeCourcy, who I think he would probably have it. Mike's a reputable guy, former Sporting News college basketball writer. Bill Belichick has coached 11 seasons without Tom Brady. In those 11 seasons, how many did he have a winning record?
Do you count the year that Brady got hurt week 1?
I don't know if he did or not. I just saw the tweet.
They did. They went 11-5.
Yeah.
So I would say 1.
3.
Oh, counting Bledsoe.
Yeah.
So Bledsoe and then Castle.
Yeah. Well, and then he was here.
But how many years were they?
He was here, too. He was the head coach here. Belichick when he was the head coach here.
Let's see a winning record. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold please. 3. I mean,
that's
that's
what DeCourcy had to say. But the majority of his time is with
small
Brady.
Sample.
It's 20 years with. Well, it's a third.
Hold on.
Right?
I'm
third
pulling
of it
up right now.
Brady was there 20 years.
I'm pulling it up right now. All right, here you go. Belichick as the coach. Bill Belichick, coach. Okay. Here we go. So Brady is what, 2000 and...
All right. Let me be, while you're doing that, he only had one winning record here. He went 6-10, 7-9, 11-5, 5-11.
So 94. So he's 1 for 3.
There's one.
1 for 4. 1 out of 5 right there. So he's 1-4.
Yep.
2000, no. Brady comes in. 2001, you can't say is all Brady.
It's pretty early Brady, though. So
How many
win
games
the
does
Super
he
Bowl.
play that year? Let's see. They win the Super Bowl. Let's try to see.
He hasn't had a winning record.
Brady was 11-3. Bledsoe was 0-2.
In New England, he only had one. He only had one winning season without Brady. That was 21 with Mac Jones.
Okay, then he has 2 because 2000 is it 2008 or 2009?
So DeCourcy must be counting the Castle year as the third. That would do it. That would give you your math. So he was properly sourced. 3 out of 11 without Brady have had a winning record.
Not great.
Yeah, 08 he was 11-5, second and missed the postseason. At 11-5, they missed the playoffs.
I mean, it's kind of like saying what was Bill Walsh's record without Joe Montana?
It's not, though, because he also had the tenure here. I mean, Bill's pretty much entirely tied. Isn't Bill entirely tied to Joe?
No, 79. Joe is 81. So he was loser without him, winner, and then winners with him. Yeah, and then he was done. Done in 10 years. 10 years, won 152 games. In 10 years, won 92 games and 100 out of 152.
Yeah.
10 playoff wins. Jeez Louise.
You can tweet your questions to us at Browns_Daily. Get them in now. Robert Pace of the, quote, classics. What is your favorite Christmas song?
Silent Night.
I really like the Bublé version of It's Beginning to Look a Lot Like Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great one. I love
Jordan
Bing
got all
Crosby
excited
doing
about that.
White Christmas.
Yeah.
Big fan of the opening song to Christmas Vacation. Always sets a mood.
Yeah.
Uncle Billy Max.
There's a bunch of different. Oh, that's
Christmas is all around.
That's unbelievable.
It's an unbelievable song.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I need more of him. Every scene he's in that is perfect.
Oh, he's so good.
Yeah, Silent Night is the only one that I get like emotional because I can go back to being 5 years old, driving home from my great grandma's house in the back of the car, looking for Rudolph in the air and Silent. I mean, that puts you in a spot when I hear that.
Yep.
Enough from the clown. I went to the Tribe World Series in 95 and 97. It was deafening. It was so loud. I assume my first team up north game in
Just
Columbus.
Michigan. They're Michigan until you beat them. Come on.
Nope, not even close, in fact.
No, it's the loudest Ohio Stadium is at night in September when they have a monster non-conference. Now, they're not going to get those anymore because Fox always has first pick. So, like next year, the Texas game, August 30th, Arch Manning versus Julian Sand, that should be a powder keg, but it's going to be noon.
Really?
Yeah, Fox is going to pick it.
That'd be disappointing.
I don't like that.
I don't think there's so many people who don't understand how the process works on it,
You've
and I don't
talked to
blame
us
you, but
about
like
this.
Fox gets the first 2 picks.
Period.
So last year, though, because they can't play Oregon at noon, the Oregon game was at night. Columbus continues to be in the Eastern time zone, so I would bet almost anything it's a noon kick. It's the number 1 game of the season.
It continues to be in the Eastern time. You're right.
That's right.
That's right.
Ohio resident. Z, I got 2 fantasy questions, 2 separate playoff matchups, both PPR.
Okay.
Chief or Hawkinson or Andrews? Yes, I have all 3.
Well, that sounds like Chief's not going to play. Andrews has been red hot. I like Andrews slightly over Hawkinson.
Higgins or Neighbors? He's like, I'm getting married this weekend and can't spend time overthinking this.
Go T. Higgins. Just take the quarterback.
Yeah,
I
they
know
play
last
at
week was
Tennessee.
Chase. Just
First
go
and
T.
foremost, you are doing your friends and family no favors getting married on a football weekend.
No, you're not.
Especially the first playoff weekend. Sad. Cleveland is the reason. Hey, guys, what would you rate Drew Aller as a prospect? Would he be a good fit in this offense?
No. I'm in the season right now. This is not a time to look ahead. I'm in the season right now. We will have plenty of time to get there. I know that he made one throw that got everybody excited.
Drew should be this Medina kid. Last year, he's gotten so much better every year at Penn State and was a bit of a check down Charlie last year. He's gotten better, and I think he's also done so. He deserves a lot of credit for this. They do not have elite receivers. They have an elite tight end, and they have elite backs, but they do not have elite receivers.
And they don't play to win.
They do not. I would love to see him play one more year at Penn State, but under this offensive coordinator, but also acknowledge that this is a really bad draft class for quarterbacks, and if the time to go is now, this is probably a good time in that sense.
Where do you think he goes?
I have no idea. It'll depend a lot on how he tests. I would imagine, Shadour's going to go first, and then it's kind of a crapshoot. There kind of isn't a consensus guy.
Are you surprised
because
that
Ewers fell off the cliff, Beck fell off the cliff.
What happened to Ewers? I feel like he was like destined to be Jay Cutler.
He doesn't see the field well.
Yeah.
So he's best, if you watch him play, he's best out of structure.
Yeah.
And then he'll look downfield and rip it. But in the pocket, he's just not comfortable.
Are you surprised Nussmeier, if I'm saying it right, is going back to LSU?
No, he should.
He should.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just trying to think, who in the country at quarterback. There's going to be a bunch of, mid-round guys that have made careers playing college football, like Dylan Gabriel.
Sure.
Who's a little dude.
What about Beck?
He fell off a cliff, man. He was so bad, and now he had his elbow surgery.
Don't you think he's a guy, though, that you take in the mid-rounds to run, this style of an offense or a Shanahan offense?
I don't think he's got the processing for it.
No?
I would rather have Gabriel in this type of offense or a Shanahan offense. He's quick.
Yeah.
Did you watch him play Penn State?
No.
They had the answers to the test.
Yeah.
Offensively. He knew where to go. It was out of his hands so quick. And that's where Bo Nix was.
Yeah.
There's a direct correlation to the type of offense Lanning's running at Oregon and the NFL in terms of processing. They're not big drivers of the ball down the field, but the ball's out quick. It's on time. They give guys a chance in space. I'm not saying draft him or anything like that, but in the first round, second, none of that, obviously. But I'm saying third, fourth. Would I be surprised if he hung around for a while? No, I wouldn't.
Read at work, Christmas gift you always wanted but never received. G.I. Joe aircraft carrier.
I had the USS
Wanted
flag.
it.
I had that sucker.
Couldn't get it. I had the Millennium Falcon. I was very lucky.
I had the X-Wing.
I just
Millennium
wanted
Falcon's
that
a big
aircraft
one.
carrier.
I can't remember.
Be honest with you, it was really cool, but it was big.
Yeah, you can't exactly go over to Johnny's house and walk down the street with it.
You got to come to the aircraft
They got to come to the aircraft carrier.
There was one year there was a video game that I really wanted that I did not get, and I was bummed. But for the most part, Santa was pretty good, dude. You wrote it down.
Usually, if you were a good boy, it'd be
Santa
taken care
came
of.
through.
Probably the biggest miss at Christmas that I can recall was a Sega Master System instead of a Nintendo.
Yeah, Sega was great.
Now I ended up loving Sega, and then the first Sega we had them all.
It was just Sega,
like the original Sega, and then we had the Sega Genesis. And that was actually really good. Sega Genesis was great. But the original Sega Master System, I remember thinking, I can't play Tecmo. I can't. What are we doing with this thing?
Action Fighter? Do you remember
They
Action
were all
Fighter?
fun. Shogun, I think,
Action
was
Fighter
one.
Was one of,
what was it?
And they had
there was
RBI
a Ninja
Baseball.
One that was really good.
Shinobi.
Shinobi was good. Yeah.
Dude, Action Fighter was one of the great games.
Great.
You were like a car, and then you get a
But
plane.
was it, or were we just?
No,
did we
Action
just
Fighter
like?
Was great.
It's what we had. But I
I
remember
played
we
a lot of
wanted the
Action
Nintendo and we wanted the Tecmo, and we ended up with the Sega.
They didn't have a great football. The early football was actually Joe Montana. By the way, I watched 2 parts of that Madden, the making of Madden documentary. It's fascinating.
What was that on? Is that an Amazon or production or Netflix?
I think so. I think it's
okay. I wanted to see that.
Oh, it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
They this guy who basically oversaw this from Electronic Arts was a beast. I mean, just had incredible fortitude and vision and drove this thing through, and nobody thought it could be done.
This from down in the locker room. Mike Hall Jr. designated return to play, said he expects to play against the Chiefs.
Good.
So that's very good.
Good.
That's today's mailbag. And a little more.
So much more to come, including a score. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Oh, baby, come out to the Grindstone Tap House Berea tonight, 7 to 8 finals. Kevin Stefanski, Remote of the Year. Meet Browns punter Corey Bjorquez, and it's brought to you, of course, as always, by Bud Light. We got a score tonight, Gibbe.
It's got to score quickly. Los Angeles, the Rams visiting the Santa Clara 49ers.
Oh, baby.
49ers, Rams. Pedro, go.
Nate, Thursday.
Nerd. 30.
Worried about the line, worried about his shoulder.
Niners win a close one, Nate. 21-20.
Close one. I thought the same way. I'm with you on that. All right, there you go. The next level's coming up next. Thanks for listening, buddy. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.